Welcome to MCU Mondays on Geek News Now. I'm your host, Chris. I'm here with my co-host, Debbie. Debbie's part of our social media team on GNN. How you doing tonight, Debbie?
Doing good, doing good.
I'm
Excited to
doing
talk
good,
about
too.
Party Thor.
Party Thor, right on. A lot of fist bumping on the agenda tonight. Yeah, Party Thor. That was out there. But I of course am, Chris. I do the music videos and whatnot that you see on the YouTube channel. And tonight on MCU Mondays here on Geek News Now, we have a special guest with us, and that is Jeff, who's right down there below us, taking the spot that David normally holds. He couldn't be here tonight because he was attending a concert that his son was playing in, Family First. And so we're missing David tonight, but we're glad to have Jeff with us. Jeff is from MCU's Bleeding Edge podcast, which if you're looking for links for that, you can see it in the description below. Jeff, thank you for being here. How are you?
I'm good, and it's really cool and nice to have an opportunity to fill in for David, but I hope he's doing well and everything and whatnot, and thank you for the opportunity to be on.
Absolutely. Hey, tell us a little bit about what your podcast is and what you do on the Bleeding Edge.
Well, on the MCU's Bleeding Edge, we do live streams very much similar to this on Wednesday evenings around 9:05 p.m. Eastern, 6:05 p.m. Pacific. Every Wednesday evening, we do live streams, and we've been doing them for about, I'd say, 3.5, 4 months now straight. And that's about the expanse of our actual, realistic start of the channel and the podcast. I kind of fiddled around with it a little bit a couple months before that, but didn't really do anything tangible. So basically, we're a podcast through Anchor. You can find us on any of the directories. We're easy to find. The MCU's Bleeding Edge is a very unique title for an MCU YouTube/podcast. So we're not hard to find on Google or DuckDuckGo. Our website is the mcusbleedingedge.org, all lowercase. And like I said, we've got a YouTube channel. We've got a podcast. We're trying to grow. And we stay focused with basically the MCU, Marvel Studios content. But we do a little DCU fandom stuff here and there, just to keep things
Sure. There's overlap. There's a time when it's necessary to talk about both. There's when movie events overlap, we do the same thing. We talk about those comparisons, like when you had Captain America Civil War coming out at the same time as Batman vs. Superman, how the studios arrange these types of things. So absolutely, there's some crossover. But that is Jeff down there below us, filling in for David tonight, and he's from the MCU's Bleeding Edge, which you can search, or you can just look in the description below. We got links to their YouTube and Anchor account. You can check that out there. With that being said, we're going to get going, play our theme song here, and get into talking about the MCU, specifically about the latest episode of What If, Party Thor.
Theme song guy.
Oh, yeah! It's MCU Mondays on Geek News Now. We're talking about Marvel Geek News Now. Movies and TV and comics, news, opinions, breaking news and reviews. It's Geek News Now. It's
What an awesome theme song. It's better every week, or at least it's topical week to week. Okay, so moving right into it. What If, episode 7, talking about Party Thor. And this is the actual title is What If Thor Was an Only Child? And apparently, without having Loki to deal with, he becomes a party animal to the point that he literally destroys planets. Now they kind of brush over and saying like, "Oh, it was a meteorite. It was falling apart anyway." But the place that he came from before he went to Earth, the last place they partied on, exploded. So they see him as a threat, and actually, S.H.I.E.L.D's trying to take him out. So what did you think of S.H.I.E.L.D. and its response to him? I mean, you could say that a lot of these have been pretty dark, the what ifs, but I mean, at the same time, they've tried to stay very comical. This one was more comical than any of the other ones. We have Nick Fury getting taken out by like a drunk Korg. So Maria Hill was in charge. What did you think of the Shield response? What did you think of them? Like, what is our response to Thor is to go to Captain Marvel? Like, what did you think of that, Debbie?
I thought it was pretty interesting because there at the beginning of the show, you have Jane trying to contact Shield, where in the movie she has no idea who Shield is. So that was a little different take on it. I thought Shield kind of went a little bit overboard, and I don't know if that's because Nick was kind of taken out of the picture there for a little while. Maybe I forget her name. Oh, Maria Hill.
Maria Hill.
I don't know if she got a little power hungry there. Had some she was now the director for a little bit and kind of went to her head. I don't know what was going on there, but yeah, they definitely kind of went a little bit overboard.
Jeff, what do you think? What do you think about the Shield response?
Well,
they were going to go nukes. They had nukes ready.
I always like seeing Shield in MCU properties and productions. I think it's great. I love the Shield angle. I've always really enjoyed the Shield angle of the Avengers film from 2012. I thought they were like a really great part of the movie. And I mean, for me, the Shield aspect in the episode was one of the few positives for me that I was able to draw from, that made it like kind of more tolerable to watch in terms of the overall watchability of the episode.
So that made you liked the Shield interaction. I like seeing Phil Coulson.
Yeah. It was one of the positives for me. It's always fun to see those old characters. It really is. I think we all, as fans, even like newer MCU fans, I think kind of like love the nostalgia aspect of seeing Nick Fury and Carl, and the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and anything that's kind of like old school at this point, MCU territory, I guess. And I think people are going to continue to desire to see that kind of stuff in these, in these shows and in these movies. I just am a little bit, I don't know, the whole Party Thor theme didn't really work for me that well.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. And you know what, I'm actually a little bit later in this episode of this show, we're going to talk about the end. When we get to the end of the episode, I think that showed some promise for the future, because this episode was incredibly just like cavalier. You want to talk about cameos? This had everyone from like Thor 3, Thor 2, and at Guardians of the Galaxy. Rocket Raccoon was asleep in the sink. I mean, we had all kinds of people. We had he was literally DJing, and he dropped the foam on them all, and so this episode very much so was just like we're having fun with it. Marcy gets married to the duck, Howard the Duck. Oh, Mrs. the Duck. Exactly. No, it's like what? And that just goes to show. And before I watched this episode, I was seeing people talk about it on Facebook, and there was a post in one of these groups, and it was like, so now we can they just proved. Here's what it said, because it threw me off so hard. They just proved in the MCU that Captain Marvel is stronger than Thor. And I hadn't even watched the episode yet, which, first of all, I don't think that they proved that in this episode at all.
No,
at all. I don't think you could say that. But I hadn't watched the episode, so I was like, maybe she kicked his ass. I hadn't seen it, so I just responded with, stop saying that anything in the MCU has been proven with What If. Okay, the show's title sets it up for you. It's What If. Iron Man wasn't called What If Iron Man didn't know. It was just Iron Man. This is What If. Any hypothetical scenario you can imagine, any of them is possible. They could animate it, and it could be a What If. So Party Thor, yeah, it's not everybody's cup of tea. But could it happen? Is it possible at all? Yeah, and they just showed you that it's possible. That's kind of the thing. It's like, you can't take What If too seriously. And at times it's difficult to. This episode was a big stretch, though. Like, they went full with the comedy. I mean, what'd you like about the comedy? Like, what did you like about it, Deb? You said you really enjoyed this episode.
I
Was
did.
it?
I mean, I laughed throughout the whole episode. Of course, when you get Chris and Tom Hiddleston together as Thor and Loki, you know it's going to be fun. I mean,
And it wasn't your average Thor and Loki.
no, it wasn't. But I mean, it just seemed like the actors themselves really got into this episode. Yeah, I just loved it. The comedic portions of it, which was a lot, was just great. I really enjoyed it because a lot of the what ifs so far have been kind of dark or serious. There's been a few comedic moments here and there, but yeah, this episode I just absolutely adored. I think I've watched it 4 times now, and I can't get enough of it. So
Yeah, this episode is full on with the comedic intent, because I would say those other, even the dark episodes, okay, let's say, for instance, when all the Avengers die in that one episode with Hank Pym, you still have like Coulson talking about how dead Thor smells like lavender, and Thor doing his hair thing, which he did again in this, the slow motion like hair flip. Oh, look at it. You know, so there's tons of humor in these things, but those ones did have overall, outside of those moments, pretty dark storylines. So yeah, this one was a departure from that in the big way. It's just like, what would happen if Thor was a little less, you know, guided and went to party on Earth and just threw a party that was so awesome it would possibly wreck the planet? You know, what if? And so yeah, part of the fun of this one was getting to see Loki in his ice giant form. What do you think of that? And is that, I mean, Odin just adopted it, right? Is there a spell on him like all the time that he doesn't just, why does he not normally just look like that anyway?
They didn't explain that, and I didn't really get it. I was like, why is he an ice giant? Like, I don't, you know, it was cool, you know, like it was cool. And it was cool that he was like, I mean, he wouldn't help clean up and everything, but he was like not trying to destroy anybody or kill anyone or anything like that. So that was nice to see like a positive Loki, you know, even in that form. But again, I don't want to sound like a doomsdayer or whatever when it comes to Marvel. I love the dark stuff and the light stuff, although maybe I trend towards the darker stuff. But this whole Disneyfication of some of this stuff, some of this content, after watching Shang-Chi, watching this episode of What If, this Disneyfication of Marvel, it a little bit kind of doesn't worry me, but I it's not my deal, really. I'll be honest with you. I thought the episode was fun, but the trend right now of the What If series, where it's going, I'm a little bit 50-50 with it. You know, I liked Doctor Strange. Episode 4 was good.
Sure.
The zombies was good, and episode 5 was great. But the Killmonger one really didn't do anything for me. And this one, you know, I mean, look, it's great that we all have different opinions on Marvel's, you know, content, and we're all, you know, have our own voices in the fandom. I think it's awesome that Debbie loved it and watched it 4 times. But for me, like when Howard the Duck married Darcy, I was like, are you kidding me? Like, seriously, like you're going to take it to that level with the tone of the episode? And it would have been nice when they showed Captain Marvel and Thor fighting, if at least one time when Captain Marvel punched Thor and he landed in a different country or whatever, like a little bit of blood would spurt out of his mouth or something, or drip down the side of his face or something like that, or he at least would look dirty.
Okay. I think maybe part of the reason that didn't happen is just because can't make a god bleed. But I mean, yeah, you could. They obviously did that kind of stuff in like the zombies episode. But I think part of the reason, again, that this episode was so light is because they're setting it up for a direct follow-up very soon. I mean, the end of this episode set up a pretty big, I think part of the reason they just had fun with it was because when else are you going to get the opportunity? Again, the series literally is called What If. You shouldn't be taking it too seriously. It is a chance to do random stuff. So I try not to, even though I pick them apart every week. I mean, last week I made fun of Wakanda so much.
Hey, look, the premise is awesome. I love the premise of What If. I loved the What If comic books when I was a kid. They were great, but they were darker. You know, I mean, the typical What If comic book was like, what if the Punisher became Captain America, you know, and he was out killing people as Captain America? What if Spider-Man, you know, the lighter side of What If in the comics was like, what if Spider-Man became a part of the Fantastic Four or something like that? So even then there was like fighting and like action and, you know, like I think, you know, it was interesting and action packed. This was just so light for me that like one of the only highlights for me was Captain Marvel. I thought they did a really good job with her animation wise.
Yeah, I actually like the sparks that were around her, the way that they were doing a lot of that stuff, like when she would land and it would gently go away. Yeah, they did a really great job on her animations. And then when they were fighting and trading those blows, like you were talking about, that was some pretty great. I mean, that's the thing I do like about the series is that animation. I didn't like it at first, but the way they've done a lot of the action sequences, they combine a lot of like still backgrounds or like blurred backgrounds to make it look almost like a comic at the same time while still being animated. I think that's pretty cool.
Those still backgrounds where they show the Watcher kind of imprinted in the background are literally awesome visually. I love them.
Yeah, I love the memes too that come out of that. It was just like, it was just a normal day, and then I looked up at the sky. Oh no!
I mean, literally, they're almost when you see them during the episodes, they're almost breathtaking.
And they're usually during some great. If it was in a movie, it would be like one of those transitional scenes. It's like one scene has ended, you're being introduced to the next scene, and here's like a framing shot to set it up. But in this framing shot, we see that the Watcher is also watching. It's definitely awesome.
Oh yeah, and Jeffrey Wright's awesome. And if anything, I mean, I was really excited to find out that he was going to be Uatu and everything. I thought that was great choice. He's so great as an actor, and his voice is so powerful. He's such a great character actor. I almost wonder if maybe they're not going to get as much out of him in the MCU as they could have if they used him for something else, having him be the Watcher and kind of just have like such a light footprint on the episodes. But he's really good in the role.
Well, he might have a bigger impact going forward. I mean, I'm pretty sure they've already announced season 2 of What If. I know another thing about the whole What If is that they're using it simply to introduce the common viewer, the common Disney Plus subscriber to the idea of multiverses, to the idea of multiple realities, because that's not something that just every person that might go see a blockbuster movie necessarily knows. And so as they dive deeper into the stuff, and as it's going to be more important, aka Spider-Man, aka Multiverse of Madness with Doctor Strange, they want to set people up to understand this stuff. They gently got into it with WandaVision. They gently got into it with time travel even more with Loki, and then set it up at the very end of Loki. And then right after that, they have What If. The multiverse is huge. And I was actually just rewatching Doctor Strange with my sister. She's now, I think, actually still. And the Sorcerer Supreme, or the Ancient One, when she's first talking to Strange, she even says during his like vision things like, "Who are you in this vast multiverse?" So like they've been angling towards this multiverse setup for a while. Johnny's in the comments. So is Cam. Cam said about the episode, "I don't know why, but a good amount of the humor in this episode really worked for me." So it worked for Cam. Worked for Cam this time around. I know if that was in a movie, that level of stuff would piss me off. But I could let it go for What If. Johnny says, "We know it's not the Watcher. It's Mephisto." Mephisto confirmed. Oh, we love to say it. That's a common joke on the show here, Jeff. It's just that anything ever means Mephisto confirmed.
I get it. Believe me, I was one of the people that believed full on that What If Mephisto was going to be in WandaVision, and was in WandaVision actually, and like was just waiting for it to happen, and it never occurred.
Yep. Or they either cut it out, or it'll be shown in the. He was the Fly. So.
I'm still waiting. I still have faith he'll pop up in a movie or something.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah.
I am too. I don't see how. I mean, again, from a comic book standpoint, he's such an important character in some of the different arcs, in the MCU universe and some of the stories, especially when they get into the whole monster verse aspect of the MCU and they bring Blade in and Ghost Rider and everything. I don't see how you don't bring Mephisto in at that point.
Yes. And that's why some people are suggesting it's like, well, then we'll see him in Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange was even supposed to be in WandaVision, or was at least at one point suggested to be in WandaVision, and that got removed. And so possibly because you don't want to tease things too early. It's kind of a delicate game that they play. I mean, just look at Spider-Man and the insanity that's going on with Spider-Man right now, and you can see how like delicate a balance it is to try and like what information you give away. What do you think about the current Spider-Man scenario, Jeff?
I mean, I like Spider-Man as a character a lot. Growing up, reading the comics, I actually had more Spider-Man subscriptions of comic books than anything. That was the one I had, I think, probably 4 of at one point or 5 of at one point, because like this was during the boom, and they were just making different Spider-Man titles left and right back then in the late 80s and early 90s. I loved him as a kid. In the MCU, he's not one of my favorite characters or superheroes, but I do still really enjoy him, and I think that the Spider-Man 3 film has a lot of potential. Tom Holland's great, but as far as where things are going to go, getting in, when we do decide to get into the whole Sony Marvel Studios deal, it's wide open to me. I have no clue what to make of it. I really don't. I don't really understand what Sony's long-term goals are, where they want this, that things to go with their Sony verse, whatever. I know they actually have a phrase now how they're describing the Sony Venom verse or whatever. They've announced their own version of it. I can't remember word for word what it is, but it would be really kind of nice to know to have a better idea of where they want to go. Like, what is the direction of this? And it really scares me when I hear these stories about potentially Sony ripping Tom Holland out of the MCU.
Yeah, we're not sure what's going to happen.
Well, Sony's never been, their decision making has not, been that great so far concerning Spider-Man. Yeah, I don't know what they're thinking, or if they're just desperate to just try anything and everything to try and get their universe going, Spider-Verse or whatever you want to call it.
Well, they realize they have a monopoly on Spider-Man if they want to. So,
but they just don't do it as well as the MCU, and I think that's their downfall. They can't touch.
They haven't been trying to do MCU for a while now. Like,
I don't think anybody can touch Marvel Studios.
Well, no. It's mostly imitation at this point, but also what Marvel's doing isn't even what they used to be doing anymore. Now it's like, now they literally are interconnecting shows and stuff like that to the MCU. Loki and WandaVision, Falcon, Winter Soldier,
Hawkeye
coming up, Hawkeye, and then like She-Hulk. After that, they're going diving into the miniseries thing because streaming is going to be a big deal. So we got people still commenting here. David, I think without Loki, Thor would have been a stronger character like Hela, not a party frat boy. Yeah, they seem to imply that Loki would just become like a party nonsense person. And you know what? The thing is, again, with the what if, it's just one scenario. There's a million other scenarios where Loki's not his brother and he doesn't turn out to be. And there's another million scenarios where he is a part, and another million. Like, that's the thing about infinite possibilities. Like, this is just one of infinite possibilities. Okay. Anything's possible. We're just going to, fine, we're going with it. And it's easier to do in what if than some of what they had with Star Wars Visions. I can tell you that right now, because there were some things in Star Wars Visions that just, I was like, look, I'm willing to suspend reality.
I didn't see it yet, Chris. I didn't see it yet. I've heard really good things.
I'm not saying Yeah, I'm not saying it's bad, but like I've said the entire time, it's an anime anthology, so there's going to be a couple that you like, probably more that you don't like, and it depends on if you like the art style, if you like anime, if you don't like anime, if you're willing to let ridiculous things happen and not care because you understand it's just an anime anthology and not like canon or anything like that. But still, no, there was like I really liked the first episode, but then there was another one where I don't want to get into it because you haven't seen it. I'm not going to. That would
No,
because it's near the end of the episode. It threw me for a loop, and I was just like, "What the? Why did you have?
no, have at it, man. Have at it. It's all good.
Well, no, okay. Just in the third episode or whatever, they're fighting on the outside of a Death Star. I think it's the third episode, and like they don't have masks or any sort of, and so I was just like, fine. And it bothered me for a while because they're fighting for a while. I was like, maybe there's a reason that it's lasting a little while. I was like, no, they just don't care. You're just in space and nobody cares that you're not wearing a suit. Fine. And I was like, okay. I was the one saying I have to suspend disbelief. So let it go. Fine. They're fighting on the outside of the fine. And then at the end, some crazy ridiculous bullcrap happens, and one of the people fighting is like drifting amongst wreckage, and a droid, a humanoid droid, but a droid comes over to rescue her, and the droid is wearing an oxygen mask. And I was just like,
What?
no. There's a line and you've crossed it. This is stupid. That's stupid.
That's not logical.
That's stupid. That's like there's a line between like fantastical or like unbelievable or whoop-de-doo or this is just stupid. That's stupid. I'm now infuriated. And it took me so long in this episode to put the whole breathing in space thing behind me to then near the end for you to show that to me. Just it's like, oh, it's like a slap in the face. They're bound to put in Mephisto now with all the fans constantly supposing it was all Mephisto. And, well, a lot of the storylines, as Debbie's mentioned in past episodes and as the comics fans know, like the whole WandaVision storyline is taken from comics that have a similar storyline where Mephisto is directly involved in the birth of those children. And by the way, that show ended with Wanda hearing the voices of her children. So that story is, oh, well, WandaVision's over. Well, that didn't really end, did it? Loki's over. Well, with a million new questions, like most of these series have just been like, here's a million things to wonder about. What's going to happen? I don't know. And that's why Shang-Chi was neat, whatever, but it has almost nothing to do with really like all the stuff they've been setting up, which is going to be in Spiderman and Multiverse of Madness, and maybe some Eternal stuff, most like now with like Celestials and all that kind of stuff. So I guess what'd you say about that, Jeff, about like the upcoming slate of films? And I guess actually, since we got you here, what was your opinion on Shang-Chi? And
Well, just to start off with the first part of your question, I think with the Eternals itself, individually, there's probably going to be a lot more connective tissue in that film than people realize. I think they're not going to show it in the trailers. They're not going to show their hand in the trailers. It would make no sense. Of course, they're going to keep the Atlantis, Liberia, Namor, whatever direction they end up going. Right. I would be surprised if they actually end up visiting ancient Egypt to the Eternals film and bumping into Kang, as Rama-Tut, potentially, and Apocalypse.
Right.
That which would be great. I honestly, just to get a little bit outside of the bounds of the question, I think that it was really a shame what Fox did with Apocalypse in that X-Men film. It was not a good version, and I love.
That was kind of death throes.
Yeah, it just didn't come off right for me how it looked. It didn't look like he didn't look like the Apocalypse from the comics for me. So I'm hoping really big time as a fan of that villain and of the X-Men that Marvel gets a chance to take a stab at Apocalypse potentially. I know the comic book fans love that character just as much as I do. But as far as Shang-Chi goes, again, I mean, I enjoyed the film. It was a good film. There were a lot of really good positives and highlights in it, more than the bad for me. But at the same time, it wasn't up to the level or up to snuff as far as some of the other MCU films, to where I would probably rank Shang-Chi in like the middle maybe of the MCU films, or even like a little bit more towards like the 3/4 section, as far as like the ranking goes. I just felt like the character's great. Simu Liu was awesome. I don't want to take anything away from the performances because they were good, but there were a little, just I guess like you said, Chris, about how you felt about that Star Wars episode. I thought they could have done more with Shang-Chi's sister's arc in the movie. Like, I didn't like how short her not her time on screen, but just the way that they fleshed out her arc. I felt like they could have done more with the character. And then with like the Ben Kingsley angle, I know some people liked it. I'm sure like you guys liked it. Maybe Debbie loved the Ben Kingsley angle with him as the fake Mandarin again. But for me, I was like, you know what? They could have just not done that, and the movie would have been fine. So again, I mean, it's one of those things. There's more good than bad with Shang-Chi, and I don't want to, I'm very optimistic and confident when it comes to Kevin Feige and Marvel Studios.
Sure.
And I love Shang-Chi. I think it's a great film. But
they're not immune to mistakes, though, and that's what Ben Kingsley was in the beginning, and that's what also we consider on this show to be a boner alert. Hey, did you think that was an awesome character that you've seen in the comic books? What, just because he has the same name and we've advertised him as the character that you think he is? Guess what? It's not. Hey. That subversion tactic doesn't always work so great. And I think they're beginning to learn that.
Well, the faceless animal companion of Trevor's, his buddy there or whatever, that was just like that was perfect for Disney. Like, if you know Disney and their whole princessy, type of like vibe, it just was perfect for them to have that animal character.
And you can sell a toy of it. I mean, marketing. I
found it disturbing. I didn't like Morris.
You don't want a little butt with wings? No. So it can fart in your face?
No, the tigers or whatever were cool. I like the tigers. And I love the Chinese mythology and everything, but the faceless butt face dude or whatever, I don't know what the deal was with that.
Yeah.
We had another comic. I want to get back to the future of the MCU in just a second, but we had another. Cam said to David, I agree, because they were talking about Thor and Loki's relationship. Without Loki's adversarial relationship, Thor would likely have been a more focused warrior. Yeah, because that's pretty much all he wanted to do. I mean, in the What If, they made it seem like all he was about was partying, but I mean, he was actually pretty into just kicking butt as well. So I don't think he would abandon the warrior stuff. In fact, he might make him a more dangerous person in general. Instead of like enjoying revelry when he got it, he'd just be trying to blow up more stuff.
I'm with the comments, with the people in the comment section. I agree with them 100%. That's exactly kind of how I looked at it in the episode. I was like, is this really what Thor would end up with as without Loki? The premise to me just didn't really make any sense. I wish they would have explained it more.
Mm-hmm. And I think based upon, again, the end of the episode, what with the Ultron reveal, and basically ultimate Ultron at that, because we see that it's Vision inside, but again, Vision was supposed to just be Ultron originally. That was the whole point, was Ultron was going to be in that body. So this is like ultimate Ultron with the Infinity armor. So I think that's going to be a big part of the next episode, or at least some other part in this season, because we have seen other stuff from the trailer. The mid-season trailer showed us some stuff with like Loki, more regular looking Loki, and Thor talking about zombies and different things, which didn't happen in this episode. So it's got to be happening in one of the remaining episodes. I think a lot of these things are going to be coming to a head in the final coming couple episodes. So like Marvel Zombies will combine with all the other things that we've seen. What do you guys think about that? Do you think that's gonna happen, or is it?
Well, with the introduction of Ultravision, I kind of wonder because we've seen the scene in the trailers where it shows just like the original Avengers movie, you know, where they do that little 360 and it shows all of them all together getting ready to take on. At that time, it was Loki with the what is it, the malls and all that. I think maybe this time it'll be against Ultravision here. They'll gather to try to defeat him. Theory.
Yeah, that could be those, because we have seen those when they do the circular, like, look at the Avengers, like they did in the original Avengers movies.
Mhm.
They've done that in the trailers with like Gamora, who we haven't even seen yet, and Black Panther and Star-Lord version of Black Panther and all different kinds of heroes. So that might be the team up that we're getting. People have called them like the Multiverse Avengers or Defenders of the Multiverse. But again, there's infinite multiverses out there. So like maybe Defenders of like 3 timelines. I don't know. I don't know if it's done. Jeff, what do you think? Speaking of Ultron.
Well, you make a really good point in terms of the fluidity of the Avengers lineup in the What If episodes. We still haven't seen from the original What If trailer that shot of the wholly revamped Avengers lineup from the first Avengers movie where they do that 360 take.
Right.
We haven't gotten that yet, so we know that's coming still. So I'm looking forward to that. That seems like it has promise. With the Ultron, I've been dying to see Ultron come back. I always just assumed at some point that they would bring Ultron back and make more use out of him as the villain. Like I felt like in Avengers Age of Ultron is a very it's a really good film. That's a little bit, it's diminished by the first Avengers film and being sandwiched between that and the Infinity War and Endgame. It kind of gets flat. But I think it's a really fun, watchable film that I'm always going to continue to enjoy. For me, it's literally probably it's always been my number one go-to Avengers movie that I put on or whatever, like at night to go to bed or something. It's Age of Ultron. So I love the whole concept of bringing Ultron back in whatever form, whether it's What If or I would love to see them bring Ultron back in the real timeline at some point in Phase 4 and 5. It'd be great. Even as a cameo.
James Spader, need him?
Yes, I'm really hoping it'll be his voice we hear in whatever episode is coming up with him with Ultron in it. Huge James Spader fan, so I'm really hoping they will bring him back to voice Ultravision.
Exactly. And Jeff, I just want to say Ultron is a big deal. And we were actually talking about him a lot last episode, just because Wakanda was in the mix, and we ended up talking about Shuri and how he didn't like Shuri because there was a point. Well, I'm going to show you the clip.
For myself. This is an open and shut case, and anybody who can't see that is a savage and an idiot.
Well, that's not the clip. Hold on. Let's find the actual clip. I remember just...
Why didn't you just do each one sequentially and let it run on its own mainframe? Shut up!
Literally, that's what I was about to say.
Why didn't you just reprogram the synapses to work collectively?
Because we didn't think of it?
I'm sure you did your best.
Oh, that's what he says. He says, we didn't think of it. And I was like, bro, I can show you during the movie that you were in what was happening during that time. Thor was showing up, striking things with lightning. You had just thrown the casket carrying the not yet completed Vision out of a truck that was now flying in the air from Ultron like hovercraft abilities into a V-jet that then you flew somewhere else. Thor hits it with lightning. Meanwhile, Captain America's in there trying to cut the cables, and Quicksilver's running around. He can't be called Quicksilver yet because they didn't own Fox, but still, it's Quicksilver, and he's running around, and all this stuff is happening. So it's like, we just didn't think of it. Dude, Bruce, stand up for yourself. There was shit going down. There was a lot of shit going down. Okay,
That's right.
we weren't just and how easy was it when murderers came in to kill you when you were doing it? Oh, why didn't you just finish disconnecting the stone from his head? I just didn't think of it. No, because there were people trying to murder you at the time. So that scene always really pissed me off in Infinity War when they were trying to take the stone out, and she goes, well, why didn't you just do this? And he just goes, we didn't think of it. And I was like, what? In Age of Ultron, it's not like you just made him from scratch. No, you got him like halfway through. Ultron was halfway done making his perfect body, and you stole it halfway through, and then like again struck it with lightning. We didn't think of it. That's not what happened. Don't Bruce. Oh.
I thought it was just one of those moments where I just had to kind of let it go as a fan, because I was like, you know what, the movie itself is awesome, so I'm going to let this kind of slide here. You know what I mean? Like, that's
sure. I'm willing to do that. Like overall, I didn't leave the theater being like, why? It's just something that, like, if I were to nitpick, I was like, what about Infinity War do you hate? And I'd be like, oh, I'll tell you right now. That. Well, if I could change one thing, it'd be that little thing.
I don't like to bring the comic book knowledge into play in a negative way, or act like, you know, if you're a Marvel comic book fan or whatever, or an old school comic book fan, that somehow makes you a better fan or something like that than anybody else in the fandom, because I think that's bullcrap. We're all equal, you know what I mean? We're all allowed to have our opinions and enjoy what we enjoy. And I'm glad to see Marvel catering to the entire fandom, even if that means I'm not necessarily happy with the product of what they give us at times. You know, it is what it is. Like you said, they're not perfect, Chris. I mean, the mistakes are going to be made. And let's be honest, overall, Marvel Studios does a great job with pretty much everything, I think.
I'd agree with that.
Across the board. They run a tight ship. But from a comic book standpoint, Shuri is not more intelligent than like Reed Richards or Bruce Banner or like, you know, Tony Stark or anything like that. From a technological standpoint, Wakanda and Shuri in the comics are not as advanced to the level that they show or demonstrate kind of in Black Panther and Infinity War.
Yeah. We were talking about that a little bit too, especially since the last episode was so specifically about like Wakanda and everything, but just the fact that the way that they talk about their technology, and then they're like, oh, the colonizers are so terrible because they came in and conquered these people. And I was like, you're showing them with muskets and you have laser beams. Why aren't you stopping them if they're so terrible? And just that whole, I think that's one of the funniest memes ever.
That's
just
awesome.
Because, they're always...
That might be the best thing I've seen all day.
I mean, that is what we spent a lot of time talking about last week, was just like this one was a good one. Let me see if I can get it.
You need to send me a copy of that meme, Chris, because I want to use that on my show. That's great.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. This is what we were talking about last week, because they let him through the shield, and I was like, the shield itself has always been a terrible, like a ridiculous. Or if you're gonna literally have that, like, let's be honest, it looks exactly the same. But anyway, I think the next couple movies are going to actually get us out of this questioning phase and more into there's going to be more questions. There always are. That seems to be how they end their stuff specifically. So you have to watch more. But I think we're going to get a lot of answers specifically on how the multiverse is going to work. The vampire and, like you said, the monster stuff coming into it. I think that's happening in Multiverse of Madness. So Spider-Man is probably going to show us a lot. And then Multiverse of Madness is, by the end of that, I would expect us to have a grasp on how they're working this. And then they've got a bunch of movies coming after that. I mean, Quantumania is the first time you're supposed to officially see Kang, but like, we've already seen him in Loki as, you know, oh, well, that was just a variant. Well, okay, then we can see other variants of him. That's literally what he says in Loki, is that there are infinite versions of me about to come for you. So when you're talking about ancient Egypt and seeing him there for the first time, I mean, as a possibility. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about the X-Men, because that's the thing I don't know if is as likely to happen. I want to talk to you about that. But Kang, I definitely think is a possibility that we'll be seeing more of him. But you mentioned seeing the X-Men and seeing Apocalypse, and while I think that would be great, I don't think it's as likely to happen because I think they're going to be. You were talking about it in Eternals anyway, and I don't think it's likely to happen in that, just because I think they're more waiting for a Multiverse of Madness type event to introduce the X-Men. But they've waited so long already. I mean, do you think they would introduce X-Men in Eternals?
No. Let me preface.
Okay.
What I'm talking about in the Eternals would just be basically like almost like a cameo type, an indication or a sign of where things are going to eventually go in the MCU later on. I don't think they're going to suddenly explain mutants, or they might. You never know. They may actually explain mutants in the MCU in the Eternals film. They could do it. The premise of the Eternals film would actually work perfectly.
Actually, yeah, it would. That would be a weird place to do it from my perspective, but they could because part of the thing about the Eternals is that radiation, I don't want to get too into it, is part of what that radiation from the center of the earth is what helped create the X gene.
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about? Yeah.
Yes. I think the whole idea of that, what is it, galactic energy or whatever that helped create the big boom, and that was
cosmic energy
from WandaVision, where I think it's Cersei talks about in the Eternals trailer that the snaps caused like some kind of surge of that energy, to where that's what's going to propel or fuel the baby Celestial that they have.
They even say that in Endgame when they're looking for Thanos. There's like, well, then we detected a cosmic energy surge on this planet when he destroyed. And so, cosmic energy surge. How many of those happened on Earth? Well, at least 2. What? Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm sure you already, Debbie and Chris, you already know where I'm going with it. Yeah. The whole idea would be, or the premise would be, very simply that energy itself, in some way, caused the latent X gene to activate in all of these potential mutants in the MCU, and that's why we haven't seen them up until this point. But still, at that point, how do you explain Wolverine? And
exactly, yeah. And you could say it activated in some, before others. There were and there were like mutants way back in the day, so it's like, oh, they really mutated fast, but maybe they got a blast of cosmic energy at some point. We had Johnny Lynch chiming in earlier saying, I don't trust trailers anymore. I think there's every chance that the Avengers style shot of the Avengers, and he's talking about the what if stuff here, is just animated for the trailer. So he's positing the possibility that shot that we see of like Gamora and Black Panther, Star-Lord and all of them, and that quick shot in the trailer, that could just have been animated for the trailer, and they're not above that. We know, that's what they did.
Thing with the Loki, they showed stuff in the trailer that never did actually happen. So,
and does it work? Yes. Is it shifty and possibly underhanded? Well, I'll let you be the judge.
Us off balance so we don't guess what exactly is going on. Exactly.
That's a full-on boner alert. We have a boner alert level 5.
I love how that sounds.
Oh, that's the Star Wars klaxon alarm. That's what plays on the Death Star.
Kind of sounds like a dying animal.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It gives you that sense of urgency. Like, oh god, if that thing's dying.
Like one of Captain Marvel's opponents after she destroys them, basically. Like in the Thor fight. That's what's left of people that Captain Marvel punches.
She's tough. She's I love the stuff that they did with her. It's like, actually, that was one thing I liked. It was like, I'm gonna call you the one word, party pooper, and I was like, oh, that was a good, because everyone was thinking, bitch.
I think Captain Marvel only works. I'm not trying to put myself out on a limb here. This is just where I'm at, and I think this is the truth. I think Captain Marvel only works with Brie Larson in pieces, like in like short stints. That's why she was successful in Endgame. was because they contained her, her screen time and whatnot. The more you put her out there, like, and you focus her on the story on her and everything and make her the focal point of everything, it's not good.
Well, and the upcoming Marvel, the next thing that I think that's introducing the other Miss Marvel, or is that, I don't know much about.
It's Miss Marvel, and she's a huge
stretches, right?
fan. She stretches. She's a fan of Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel's her favorite superhero.
That look, I'm not drawn in by that, but
I'm actually about that theory.
Yes.
I am. That's one of my. It might be surprising to some people because I am kind of a serious, like I like the Punisher. I got the Wolverine poster. I like the darker characters, but I'm actually kind of optimistic about Miss Marvel. I want to be.
Dubsteps are pussies. You're so dark. You sure you're not from the DC universe?
Sorry, had to play it. Go on.
No, you're great. It's great, man. I mean, if anything, I need to start doing some stuff like that on my show. And that's why it's so fun to make content with other people, because it's nice to be inspired and get fresh ideas from people, because we don't really do any comedy or do anything like that during our live streams or our shows. So it's cool to see that stuff. I love what you're doing. I might even try to copy it a little bit in my own way. But yeah.
Imitation's the highest form of flattery. Continue.
Yeah. I'm not a Brie Larson hater. Like, I don't think Brie's horrible or whatever. I'm not like out there trying to, get Brie Larson like some people are. But I think it's pretty clear to me, and to a lot of people, I think at this point, because I've heard other people say it, that Wanda Maximoff and the Scarlet Witch has surpassed her as far as like being the top female character in the MCU. And I think that Kevin Feige's already embraced that and is going in that direction. I think that they're going to showcase her. And I think that they've kind of, lost a little bit of faith in the Captain Marvel character to where, maybe things are a little, changed plan-wise to where years ago, we've all obviously have heard that, they planned on having Captain Marvel be like a focal point of the MCU.
Yeah, and I think they just tried to rush it. I think it was near that tail end of the MCU where they were getting towards like Infinity War and Endgame, and they thought they could just be like, let's do this and make this. We can do whatever we want now because we're the biggest thing ever. And they tried to rush something that could have come more organically and been developed over time. And I think actually that like Captain Marvel movie kind of pushed out the chance, like that should have been where maybe a Black Widow solo film was slotted, especially leading up to her death. And then you have like a character that's earned it. And then if you take Captain Marvel out of like the Avengers movies, like you could just have Tony get back to Earth a different way and then have like Thor punch a hole through the ship, because he could totally do that. Like that's the thing, is they like underpowered Thor to fight Thanos even when he doesn't have the like stones. And then there's kind of if you take too long to think about it, I love watching the films, I love just going through it, but then it's like Captain Marvel just showing up and going through that thing is like, you could have told Thor to go bust through that ship. Like he could have done it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know where Debbie's at and where you're at, Chris, as far as how you felt in Infinity War when you watched it and saw the Captain Marvel deal with the pager and everything and Nick Fury, but I was stoked. I really was. I want to be clear. Like, I was pumped for that. Like, I love Captain Marvel. I love the costume. I love the color scheme. I really do. I like Carol Danvers as a character. I don't have a ton of background knowledge with the Captain Marvel comics, to be honest with you. Only a little bit of, small doses of it. But I loved the premise. I was really, really stoked when I saw it in theaters. I was pumped.
Did you like how she was used in Infinity War and Endgame?
Yeah,
or specifically Endgame.
The end credit scene in Infinity War was really cool. I thought it was really well done, and like it worked. It flowed to me. Like it made sense. I got it, and I liked it, and it wasn't confusing or complicated. Maybe to some people who weren't sure what that logo meant on the pager, I could see where that might be a little bit like, okay, what's that? But no, as far as how they've used her in Endgame, I don't know. I mean, look, like you said, Chris, I could sit here and pick it apart and be like, oh, well, why is she sitting there like taking punches from Thanos and everything and not even moving or like reacting to it? And, you know, all that headbutting him and all that stuff. And
Right.
And Thanos is kicking everybody else's ass, you know, pardon my French. So it's like, okay, that's kind of weird. But hey, I mean, at the end of the day, that's Captain Marvel as a character. She's powerful as hell.
And we all know that Ant-Man should have taken care of business. Get inside there and blow up.
Oh, the old anal insertion.
Well, they proved what with the
Hulk.
The Hulk that he could get in there and destroy Thanos. But that's not his way. That's not his way. That was Hank Pym in a murderous rage. I thought it was funny that he still couldn't defeat Loki then. And I was like, if only he didn't know you were coming so you could get it into his ear and then blow up his heart. Like, again, what if? You got to take them all with a massive, massive grain of salt.
I agree with you, Chris. I do. I'm sorry. I don't mean to step on your line, but no, I agree with you. I think that it's okay to be critical. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that as fans. It's okay to be critical sometimes. You know, at the end of the day, the underlying attitude I have is that, like, I love this content. I love I love Marvel, and I want to be optimistic, and I want to support Marvel and Marvel Studios, even if I don't agree with all their decisions and stuff like that. That's just how things work. But it's a business. But at the end of the day, kind of going back to the Eternals going into Phase 4, I think that it's very interesting. It's really fun as a fan. However you want to look at things, you know, right now, where we're at as far as what we have coming in front of us from a film standpoint in the MCU and Disney Plus series standpoint is really, really cool. And it looks fun and it looks like it's going to be awesome. And trying to kind of figure out or have an idea or, you know, or an impression of what's going to be more popular between these different properties, like what's going to end up, you know, being more successful, what's not, what's going to work, what's not going to work. I think it's all pretty much going to work. I'm even becoming kind of more on board with the Eternals now than I was initially with the first trailer. I was a little bit shaky with how I think the movie was going to play out. Not for myself necessarily, more for other fans that might be like, what the hell is the Eternals?
Yeah. I mean, that's part of the cool thing about the MCU is that it brought so many more people into that kind of nerd culture, just like Star Wars did. Like, I knew that if I saw someone else that was into Star Wars, and this is before the sequels came out, I knew that if I saw someone else who was into Star Wars, then I could just easily have a conversation with them and that it would be cool. So that was like a while ago. Nowadays, you know, Marvel stuff, and there's always people that want to argue and nitpick, and I'm one of those people. I enjoy doing that, but you just got to gauge your conversation. Like, where is this other person at? Like, what are we talking about? Have fun with it. I mean, if we're arguing this intensely about it, that probably means that there's a level of passion that we're both coming from. I'm sure we both enjoy this on a certain level. Let's maybe get back to that point, and instead of like having to be right, just having fun with the conversation and like letting bygones be bygones. Like, that's a really good agree point. To disagree. Yeah,
that's a really good point. It really is. Honestly, there's already so much divisiveness in the culture nowadays that, like, if we can't get along in the fandom, then I'm sorry, but, like, you know, that's a problem, because it shouldn't be that difficult to be like, okay, well, I maybe didn't like this as much as you know, Frank did, but I respect Frank. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna, like, you know, I'm not gonna beat down this movie, you know, in front of them or whatever. When he loved it.
Take that, Frank. I mean, no, we're not going to do that to Frank. No. We're
Hey, what was the purpose of life anyway?
Who knows? Probably some hogwash about the human spirit.
Oh man, you got to get some Naruto anime like in one of your clips. Like get a cool Naruto shot. Actually, I wanted to pull out the Miss Marvel in the What If episode.
Yeah.
The glowing aspect and with the animation, that actually perfectly mimics Naruto Sage Mode from the Naruto Shippuden anime. Just for all the anime fans out there. I know you mentioned anime earlier. I'm not wearing the Naruto t-shirt for no reason.
When It's not. Does it have anything to do with like that?
Yeah,
energy.
It looks just like Sage Mode Naruto, like he glows the same way.
I mean, it's similar to Super Saiyan mode in Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah,
I mean,
same thing. Yep, same exact thing, basically.
It's over 9,000. It's not even at full power yet. Yeah, the clips, I only have so many. I haven't watched Naruto all the way through.
Hey, at least you watched some. That's awesome.
I've watched some. I have.
That's great. Where are you at? Are you in Shippuden, or did you watch some of the young Naruto?
I definitely watched some young Naruto. My brother was into it, and I've been all over the place with it. So it's, I don't know. There's, again, with anime like that where there's like 800 some episodes.
Yeah.
If you don't know exactly where you are, it's hard to keep track.
Adult Swim got me into it.
That's how I got into what was it? Catman. He's not called Catman, but that's what me and my brother call him. Inuyasha. He has cat ears. All right, don't worry about it. Okay. We're over an hour here, so I guess the last thing I'd want to talk about is they showed a bunch of scrawls in this episode changing into Thor's face. We've seen some scrolls before. We saw them at the end of WandaVision, I think, and at the end of the last Spider-Man movie, actually, because a Skrull was playing Nick Fury. So is this yet like secret invasion? What are your thoughts on that, Jeff? Is that happening? Is it?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not. I'm going to be honest. I'm not one of the really super skilled, talented people when it comes to theorizing with the MCU and with these in the fandom.
Sure.
I'm more of a reactionary kind of fan, but as far as that whole concept, I think it's very possible that they could go in that direction. I mean, they're going to do the Disney Plus series by the same name. And of course, we don't know much about it. I know I don't know much about it. I don't know what direction that's going to go, other than the fact that Nick Fury is going to be in it, and they're going to have Tom Mendelsohn back. So are they going to go full blown Secret Invasion in the MCU years later, for years from now? It's possible. I'd say that I would probably, if I had to give you a grade, or I'd say probably it's more likely than less likely they'll go there. But there's a lot of different storylines from the comics that they could go with where they don't have to do Secret Invasion. I think it's interesting that you're kind of a little bit not so confident about the X-Men in the MCU. You know what I mean? Because I think that's kind of a different take that I haven't heard that many people, voice to me that they're worried or concerned about when they go in that direction. Marvel Studios does. But I think it makes sense. I understand where you're coming from. I get it. It's a really, really big task to take on to introduce the X-Men. It really is. Especially after we just got an X-Men movie, 2 years ago? When was the Dark Phoenix film? 2019?
I think so. It's close. And that one was coming out on the end.
And Kevin Feige's already basically said that they want to put a separation between the Fox properties and their version of the X-Men. So at that point,
except for Deadpool.
Yes. So you have to wonder. I mean, when I don't.
And they just introduced variants. I think also part of their, and correct me if you think I'm wrong here, but the introduction of multiverses, the introduction of variants, the introduction of all these things right at the same time. And when I say at the same time, I know that these acquisitions happened years ago, but it takes time in the bureaucracies and all like that to get these things under one house, so to say. There were projects that were being worked on for years, like X-Men stuff that they had to finish, and then projects that they were going to be working on for the next couple of years that they had to axe when you're bringing all these things together.
Well, you want to
And
hear
so
something?
now they have the multiverse, and they're like, look, there's multiverse, so don't worry about where people are coming from. Just now accept that anything can happen, and also the X-Men are here now.
See, but do you guys kind of think that there's a slippery slope with the multiverse? Because I do. I think you can overplay it, that whole angle, to where it could kind of taint.
Yeah,
we've got.
I would say they've got to establish their like prime timeline, like so that even if we know other stories are happening elsewhere and we can be invested in them, that there's still like one set of characters or one timeline that we really actually care about. Because otherwise, like you said, it gets to be too much. There's just too much out there. Oh, there's infinite things for me to care about. I don't have infinite amount of care. Like children know that.
Yeah, it's like a 616 universe, like in the comics.
Yeah, children.
Well, the thing is with the multiverse, they could do not an infinite amount of movies that would cover different timelines, but they could pick certain timelines, because with some of the series, I mean, we're getting, or at least I thought they were kind of leading to like Thunderbolts, Dark Avengers, West Coast Avengers. I mean, they could be smushing them all together. We're also getting vibes of Sinister Six. I mean, you know, and like I said, they could be, because they've done it before, where they've mushed different comic storylines into the movies. You know, so
it's a great point. It's a great point, Debbie. It really is. I forgot kind of about the Thunderbolts aspect, the Dark Avengers deal. Then you got the Young Avengers coming too, which we know is going to be full on. They're going to do it. So, I mean, if you want to talk about something that would be perfectly Disney, the Young Avengers is that project. It literally is.
Oh, I think they're definitely setting that up. And speaking of that, I think before we go, because we usually like to keep it around an hour, so we're at around an hour here. I want to look at, while we have Jeff here, the Marvel Studios Hawkeye
This
trailer.
is the first Christmas we've had together in years.
I love you guys. I'm making up for some lost time.
Authorities are wondering if the masked vigilante who terrorized the city's underworld is back.
The past has caught up with me.
Should we be worried?
No, it's nothing. I'll be home for Christmas. I promise.
It's the most wonderful time.
When I wore this suit, I made a whole lot of enemies.
You're a Hawkeye.
Who the hell are you?
Some people have actually called me the world's greatest archer.
Are you one of those people?
It's the most wonderful.
Hey, babe, I should be back in a day or two. Hang on a second. Things have gotten more complicated.
It's the most wonderful time of the It's the most wonderful time. Yes, the most wonderful.
This is too dangerous. Definitely not this one.
You don't have to say definitely like that. Holy shit! There are arrows more dangerous than that
It's just some Christmas.
Looks to be a lot of fun coming up this holiday season. Never saw it coming. Hawkeye, the holiday experience. Jeff, what did you think about this trailer? What did you think about this before the trailer and then after the trailer? What did you think about this Hawkeye? Did you have like an opinion before and after the trailer?
Yeah, definitely. I gotta mention that I loved that shot at the end with them both descending and falling and shooting an arrow at the same time. That's cool. I dig that, and like I dig the nostalgic aspect of that we've seen Hawkeye do that before. That's cool. I love the connective tissue again. As far as before Hawkeye, versus where I'm at now with the trailer, I was very, very, very highly optimistic that I was really going to like Hawkeye as a series. I loved the premise of it. I feel like, just like a lot of fans feel like Black Widow deserved her due in the MCU, you know, and I celebrate and loved her movie. You know, although I think I agree with a lot of other fans that feel like it should have been done around the time Captain Marvel came out, maybe, like you said, Chris.
Yeah, should have happened sooner, but yeah.
Yeah, but overall, I've been looking forward to the series, you know, as a contrast to What If, going back to the live action. I love Hawkeye as a character. Seeing it, my views based off of it with the trailer are that my only dig would be that I didn't like the Christmas music that much. I didn't like that. It didn't really work for me. But let me not like take anything away from the trailer. The actual scenes are awesome. I love Kate Bishop as a character. The Matt Fraction run of Hawkeye was really cool. I'm reading it right now. I'm like midway through it. And it's a really cool story that they're going to be loosely basing the series on. And Haley Steinfeld looks great in the trailer. She does. I think she's an interesting character, and I like her as an actress. I hope she does well. You know, and I want this series to do well. You know, the trailer is really great. It's fun, and it's great to see the spotlight being shown on Clint Barton.
Yeah, we definitely enjoyed this trailer a lot when it came out. It's actually kind of surprising. A lot of people have been overjoyed at the holiday aspect of it, and you were like, that kind of threw you off. I liked the juxtaposition of the cheery music compared with like what's happening. Like it's the most wonderful time. Guy hucks a Molotov cocktail. Hold on, honey. Of the year. Chucks it back out the window. Kapoo! You know, it's just like that kind of die-hard Christmas. I think Debbie mentioned it first. It's that like you know, it's Christmas time. Throw on Die Hard. It's like, is that really a Christmas movie? It's like,
yes, it
is. And now so is Hawkeye. It's a Christmas miniseries.
I think this will work better as a cop buddy series than the freaking Captain Marvel movie ever did with Samuel L. Jackson and Brie Larson. Because that pairing for me, like, just didn't flush out.
It was a little bit of a misfire, I would say. That aspect of that film.
But yeah, I mean, I'm excited, Chris. Long story short, I'm excited. This series has me pumped. And I'm definitely more optimistic and like really more looking forward to that than I am Miss Marvel. But at the same time, I'm like, you know, I want to believe in Miss Marvel.
Yes. And Miss Marvel, that's going to be a mini series as well.
But if it sucks, I'm going to come on here.
Right.
If you let me come on again, I'm going to come on here and be like, it sucks.
Everyone's free to express their own opinion. You know,
we
just like to hear why. Why did it suck? Tell us why. I like to learn more about these things. Sometimes I think something sucks, and then someone tells me why they thought it was great, and I'm like, I never even thought of it that way. And then I watch again, and I was like, all right, look, I still think it sucks, but I understand your perspective.
Well, I respect Debbie and her real positive attitude about like the What If episode and about Marvel and stuff like that. I think that's a great mentality to have. And honestly, I wish I could relate more to that myself, because I think sometimes I'm too critical of some of this stuff. I can be, I think, at times, but at the same time, you know, it's that weird bridge. You don't want to be too critical, but you don't want to also just be a fan person or whatever and just accept whatever.
That's right. And the thing is, I know I can, if Debbie ever gets upset, I can just show her some Loki.
I have been falling for 30 minutes.
It doesn't take much to make me happy.
We'll be all good. That watching Loki was one of the best things ever, because it's like every week it'd be like, Debbie, what'd you like this week? And she was like, Tom Hiddleston.
Doctor Strange is he's a great character to insert into anything, I think, really. Like if you bring him in and throw him into a movie or a series for 10 minutes or whatever, or 15 minutes, he's just great.
Hey, let's do get help.
What?
Get help.
No.
Come on, you love it.
I hate it.
It's great. It works every time.
It's humiliating.
Do you have a better plan?
No.
We're doing it.
Get help! Please! My brother's dying! Get help! Help him!
Classic.
Still hate it? It's humiliating.
No, not for me, it's not.
I was really kind of hoping they would do the reverse in this particular episode where Loki.
Oh yeah, Ice Giant Loki with Thor. That would have been great. Oh, I'm gonna have to make a
Missed
meme of that
opportunity, damn it.
I'll make a
think that
meme
would
for
be
you,
great.
Debbie.
Let me ask you guys one question before we head out. How optimistic are you about Thor 4? How well do you think it'll be received? I'm pretty high on it.
But now, in whatever year this is, the audience wants action and seats with beverage holders, but mainly action.
I think it's gonna
I'm
be a lot of
excited.
fun. Yeah, I mean,
I love Thor. I don't know if they can find a way to bring Loki into it, I would even be more ecstatic. But yeah, I'm excited for Thor. I love Chris Hemsworth. His comedic timing is great. And I don't know. I'm stoked for it. I'm excited. I can't wait. But I'm a Thor fan too, so.
Yep, and it'll be interesting to see exactly where we're at with Thor. And it looks like after that, because I mean, last we've seen of him, he's off traveling with the Guardians of the Galaxy. And then Guardians of the Galaxy 3, I think, comes out next Christmas time. Yeah, and it's Christmas-ish. So our next holiday visit to the MCU, I think after Iron Man 3 was set during Christmas and then came out in the summer, they were like, you know what we should do is actually make Christmas themed stuff and have it come out around Christmas time. I think people will be way more into that. What are you, nuts?
You may be right. I think you may be right.
Yeah.
But I will say this. Christian Bale as Gore the God Butcher could be like literally epic.
I was going to say, yeah. Everyone's always talking about, or at least, Thor's always talking about, and Loki. They're always talking about how they're gods, but, Loki's died how many times now? And I'm just like... So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, he's known as like a god killer.
Loki will be in Thor 4. Taika Waititi's already said that he's going to be in it, so he'll be there.
Yeah.
How they're going to make it work, I have no clue. I really don't.
I really don't care because
he's a time agent.
Everybody knows I love Tom Hiddleston.
Well, it would be weird as a Thor fan, right, Debbie, if they didn't put Loki in the movie, right?
Yeah, it is. It's weird.
Boom. Miss minutes.
Hello.
Drops them in.
Alligator Loki was the MVP. He was literally the MVP.
He certainly bit off an entire hand. He's a Loki.
Like, why would he stab and kill the Kang, variant or whatever? Like, she seemed. I don't know. Like, I don't want to sit here and pick at Loki because it was a great series, and Sylvie's a great character. I loved her.
Jeff, I got a music video for you to watch that I made. It's called "Falling for the First Time," and it's the Bare Naked Lady song "Falling for the First Time," but it's WandaVision and Loki, and I made it, and I'll send it to you. But you should check it out because I think you'd really enjoy it. And I make a bunch of music videos for a bunch of them. So I'll send you. That's all available on Geek News Now, by the way. If you go to the Geek News Now YouTube page, scroll down to fan-made trailers and music videos. There's over 20, I think, at this point, because actually another member of the Geek News Now team, John, started making them too. So he's got like 3, and I've got like 20. So... But Falling for the First Time is actually one of the most recent ones I've made, and I think it's one of the best ones I've ever made. So I think it's definitely worth checking out, and really emotional, and really shows what is coming out of at least WandaVision and Loki with that, like the emotion, the romance, and heartbreak stories that come out of that. which I think those did really well at. I don't think Falcon and Winter Soldier really had that aspect at all.
No, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, if I had to rank them, would be at the bottom of the 3 series.
Yeah, it's like, what do you think, Debbie? No?
I love Sebastian Stan.
Yeah, so that's the thing with like Debbie's ratings, though, is like, was this person in it? Well, then it automatically gets better than this.
I love the Bucky character. It's such a great story arc for him. I just love it. I do.
Well, you have to figure they're going to put him in Captain America 4, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
And that was also setting up Captain America on the moon. Several different times in that they were just like, I thought he was on the moon. I thought he was on the moon. Well, now Mephisto confirmed on the moon. Anyway, that's it for this week. We've gone over our allotted time, which is fine. That's not a problem, but now we're done. So I'm going to say thank you to our guest, Jeff, from the MCU's Bleeding Edge. You can, again, find links to that down in the description below. Say thanks to Debbie, my co-host. Thanks, Debbie, my co-host. Say thanks to me. My name's Chris. Thanks. My name's Chris. And that's going to be it for today.
Hot Shot Second.